Okay, well, welcome back to the continuation of our discussion of HDR fundamentals. In this segment, I'm going to be discussing the histogram. The histogram is a very important tool that we use to assess the intensity and the distribution of light that is falling upon the photoreceptors of our camera's sensor. So I think you're going to find this segment very interesting. The histogram really is an important tool, so the best you can understand it, the better. It's going to be a very important element when we do talk about the field capture for HDR photography. So let's go ahead and get started here on discussing the histogram. The histogram is a graphical representation of the intensity and distribution of the camera's photoreceptor light detection. Whew. All right. So the histogram is a graphical representation of the intensity and the distribution of the light falling on your camera's your photoreceptors of your camera's sensor. And when you think about the histogram as simply being a graphical representation, then you get the sense that the histogram can be a very important tool for you to understand the light intensities that are falling on your sensor. Now, if you reflect back to what we've been talking about, with a camera having a dynamic range limitation, and certainly your camera not having the capabilities in terms of vision that your human visual system has, you understand that what we're trying to do is to work within or compensate for the dynamic range limitations of your camera, or the inability for the camera to be able to digitize or turn into a numeric value all of the light intensities falling into the receptors of your camera sensor. So, a little bit about the histogram here. Now, on the left side, that's your darks. Any light that, well, lack of light actually, any light amount that falls under the computer's capability to give a value for the amount of light in a photoreceptor on the dark side, or the left side of the histogram, all right, is going to clip, and that's the dark side. Likewise, over on the whites or the highlight side, any amount of light that's falling on a photoreceptor that is above or greater than the capabilities of the photosensor to amount of light to be turned into a numeric value is going to clip on the white side or on the right side of the histogram. So the histogram is actually helping you to determine if the dynamic range of the scene is exceeding the capabilities of the camera. All right, and we're going to get into that more as we go. And it's also helping you to determine if data loss is occurring. Now, as I've mentioned before, data loss is the photoreceptor amount of light that cannot be turned into a numeric value, and therefore there is no value. You can't have a negative 10 pixel value, because 0 is the floor. And you can't have a 132 pixel value when the light is exceeding the capability of the photoreceptor. So it's a clipping situation. So the histogram is actually a tool by which you can determine the amount of light that is being captured by the camera and the distribution of that light. So if you have a histogram and you have this hump here that is over on towards the left, that's indicating that you have a light intensities which are predominantly in the shadow side or the low tones. If you have a hump that's predominantly over on the right, then you have an indication, a graphical indication that you have light intensities that are predominantly in the highlights or the high tones. So I know that this is a lot of territory to cover, but the histogram is actually going to be a key component in understanding the amount of light that is coming into the photoreceptors of the camera's sensor, and gives you a graphical representation of the distribution of that light and the intensity of that light. So the histogram is going to actually help you understand, if you have clipping, and it will actually help you understand just where the light levels are predominantly within the scene. Now, all right, we're gonna stop here and take a break, and we'll pick the fundamentals up here in the continuation segment, and we're going to be talking about some additional fundamentals concerning HDR photography that will help you prepare for the capturing, in-field capturing of a series of images where, as you can see here by our discussion so far, what we're trying to do is to have a series of captures where we do not have a clipping scenario, ideally, and if we do have a clipping scenario in one frame, then we make certain adjustments so that we can take a capture sequence so that we have obtained all of the light levels within the scene. But because there is a limitation in the camera's dynamic range, we may not be able to get all of the light levels captured without clipping with a single frame. So we have to take multiple images that have been each adjusted so that we don't have clipping that we're not confined to just one image where we do have clipping. And then what will happen is with your capture sequence, you'll be able to move into processing or tone mapping and be able to merge those multiple captures together so that the end result is you have an image that doesn't have any clipping. In other words, there is no loss of pixel information. So that's why the fundamentals are very key to understand the limitations of your camera, to give you an introduction to the value of the histogram so that you understand what it is that the camera is seeing, for lack of a better term. So in the next segment, as we continue with fundamentals, I think this will start to make more sense to you and will put you in an excellent position to be able to do some very effective in-field capture sequences for your best possible results when you go to tone mapping. So please join me for the next segment, and I'll see you in a few minutes.